I do think of dealing with Guardians of the Galaxy as being on untrammeled snow. And the first thing that excited me about Guardians, before any story elements or anything else, was actually creating the visual look. And the very first thing I did was I sat down and wrote a 19-page document that was called The Look of Guardians of the Galaxy. And it really was about creating a space opera that brought color back to these types of movies. There were a lot of things in that document that I adhered to, having a sort of postmodern aesthetic in terms of having a lot of contrast throughout the films, something very beautiful next to something very ugly. Morag is one of the places we see this most clearly. We have this very dour, ugly landscape and these beautiful skies. Although they're storm-filled skies, they're beautiful.
Morag is this planet that was completely flooded and it's drained away, but that was still a very light, sandy environment, so it's quite a neutral color palette. And then you go into this secret vault, and suddenly you're into this vivid gold, green and blue, jewel-like world. So the color kicks off quite quickly.
It's like living in an amazing life-size fish tank, but with no water. A little inside tip from movie making. We never want to submerge everything in water, especially the crew and the actors.
Morag sets up a lot of the look of the movie in terms of having technology that's mixed with something very ancient. So they have a very ancient temple that's obviously very old. But around that, it's a pretty forward, progressive society that we see when Quill uses his map gun. And so it was really setting up all those different tones in that one scene. And likewise, I think tonally, Morag sets up a lot of what is to come in the movie, because we have this seemingly very serious, dour situation that this guy who could be a human, could be a robot, we're not even sure what he is at first, finds himself in, and then very quickly we're, you know, attached back to Earth through the music playing. The contrast of the 1970s pop song playing while he's dancing through this very dark, evil-looking temple.
Having the music on standby and understanding what's going to be playing is really helpful because it takes the pressure off. A movie like this is so much more than just acting. I mean, every set is a giant set. All the costumes of the aliens, of the extras, all of the music, the score, the visual effects. It's like this world is created. So when you hear the music and you get a sense of what's going to be playing at the time, you think, oh, the pressure's off. I can just be myself and be present in this moment, and it'll work.
Okay. That's good. Right up there. I think we got it, yeah.
Although, if I have to hear the Pina Colada song one more time, I'm gonna lose it. Xandar is this sort of utopian society. Everyone's really smart and thoughtful and progressive, and it's futuristic, but not like lame futuristic where they're all wearing like shiny tinfoil outfits. There's a lot of different alien races. There's like people who are completely pink and yellow and blue. If you'd have been in my shoes and walked in on the first day that I was here and saw all the concept artwork on the walls, mind-blowing.
Being in outer space, that's a serious situation. James's ideas are pretty funky and out there, but he wanted everything to look grounded. We had to be really careful we weren't putting antennae on heads and things like that, so it's too silly. It has to look believable.
I think that people do sense the fact that the world building goes pretty deep. We discussed a lot about the different cultures, where they came from, who they are, what's important to them. We don't really mention Krylorians much in the movie. They're the pink people. But we have a lot of things in documents about who the Krylorians are and where they came from and what's important to them. And that was important in creating them on screen. And I think when you get to that type of specificity throughout the film, it just creates an environment that seems more real. And we have a lot more to talk about. You know, when we're talking about the way the suns move in Xandar and the three suns, and that's where the three lights, the oculights on the Nova Corps come from. That That is their suns. That's their symbol. That's what sets them apart. All those things are very important to these cultures and to where they came from and where they're going.
It was kind of daunting, to be honest. It took us a while because the color palette that James is using is pretty extreme. We got vivid colors. To turn them into humanoid aliens and so forth is quite difficult. It took a lot of testing to get the right tones and to make it believable.
It was challenging because we were trying to find the right green for Gamora that wouldn't put people off, but was also vibrant and kind of youthful, and it would engage people, but without losing the element that she is an alien. She's not a Terran. I was very inquisitive about the fact that I would have to go through 4 to 5 hours of makeup every morning because I'd never had that experience. I always like to do new things.
The stuff that they can do now with makeup is just amazing. My makeup's pretty dramatic, but it's just so cool. I mean, when we first started, it was about 4.5 hour application. The bad thing about it is I can't sit while we're doing it. Sometimes I have a little perch and I lean on it. They have these 2 sticks that they have, and they have tennis balls on top of them, and that's what I grab and perch my arms up on.
Drax, he's tattooed from head to toe. He has a grey base to him, and his tattoos are kind of red. Now, we went for keloid scarring, which is a kind of a technique used in, tattooing your own skin. And it's actually raised, so it's a few mil above the surface of your skin layer. And in 3D, when you see that come towards you, it's really quite vibrant and quite interesting, because it's very, very different. We took a full body cast. We then went into molding it, and then we went into sculpting all the pieces, breaking them down individually, and creating the makeup itself. It took a while because there's stories to be told in the keloid scarring, so we had to kind of get James around, and he would look at it, and we'd change the angle where things are going to be, what the story has to say, making sure that it said the right thing. And then when we finished it and put it on David himself, it looked terrific.
That's part of what we're doing here. The makeup is a big, major part of the film. The makeup itself is maybe 5 or 6 layers of different combinations of colors, and it takes probably all total 3 hours, 3.5 hours maybe. The textures and just the depth, it's real. It looks absolutely like this is real skin.
That's the thing. I mean, you just can't argue with the finished product because it looks so good. It's just totally worth it.
So today we are in the kiln. This is the outer space prison system filled with corrupt guards, and the Guardians of the Galaxy, before they're the Guardians of the Galaxy, are sent here to do time. And we're shooting one big, massive shot that goes all the way up and follows our characters and goes around the whole prison. And it's the biggest shot of my life, quite frankly, and it should be a lot of fun.
And this set is intense. You could really house like 160 prisoners here, and I've never seen anything like this.
This is one of our larger sets in the film. The set comprises of 3 different levels. You'll see a lot of blue screen up here, so actually in the wide shots we'll extend the set up maybe another couple of 100 feet. Slightly unusual because of its structure. We had to basically build the whole thing out of steel, but that sort of, I hope, gives it a reality as well.
For the kiln, we've looked at a lot of these different prisons all around the world, and how they act and what they're like and how they're different from prisons in Britain or the US. To be able to sort of intermingle like those different looks and create our own look, I think was very important from the beginning.
The kiln was very much a grungy, dirty, toxic land. So anything we produced for that had the grimy feel to it.
It's dark and dank, and you can almost smell how nasty it is when you're there. It's a rough place to be.
This is like the delousing process, I think. This is what you have to do when you go to prison. It's not good. Don't break the law.
We work really closely with James on this, as we do, with all of the sets, and also with Previs. Previs then takes our model and starts to actually build the action sequence within that. then James would come in and say, okay, well, I definitely need this gantry at this height for this particular sequence. I need that cell there. Obviously, the tower itself is a very specific thing. So, you know, even the little junction box that Groot gets to, that had to be at a particular height because we're always working with a virtual character. So we need to know exactly where that little box needs to be because he grows to a certain height. So we're always working within a quasi sort of virtual real space.
Here's the thing. It's a lot easier to do spaceships flying and crashing into each other than it is to have a bunch of aliens that aren't there walking and talking and having a conversation, especially if they're not walking in a complete straight line. It's the most complicated scene we've shot.
It is a little weird sometimes, you know, just kind of looking into nothing. It's just like one point and you're looking at it and you're supposed to be acting and talking to. I have to say that Gunn, who's playing Rocket here in the movie as we're filming, has made it super easy.
This one here is our booty.
He grabs the gun, right? Yep. Looks up there, sees an opportunity. These guys know what they're doing. Creepy little beasts.
Creepy little beast.
Throws him the gun swirls through the air in slow motion. Rocket grabs it, boom. Oh yeah, and then he begins to circle around and shoot all of the robots with his machine gun because that raccoon is good with firepower.
Hey, stay with me as I've got more on Chris Pratt. Did you know that the actor initially turned down the role of Star-Lord in Guardians of the Galaxy back in 2013? Well, apparently he did not want another Captain Kirk or Avatar moment. Even director James Gunn dismissed the idea. Now, after deciding to finally audition, however, Gunn was immediately convinced that Pratt was perfect for the role. Thank goodness. Nobody could have played Peter Quill better than Chris. Now, do you like my shirt? You can get one for yourself, and a link in the description.